Once again, everyone, thank you so much to those of you who are joining us live and those who are listening afterwards. Thank you for taking the time to tune in about this brand new property launch. Mangrove Crossing is one that I am so extremely excited about because it is something so unlike anything else here on Ambergris Caye. And I remember about 4 years ago, our housekeeper at the time, she was telling me about how her husband would spend all of his days at the farm. And I'm thinking that maybe he's on the mainland because here on the island, we're used to limestone, sand, Caribbean waters. And after maybe about the second or third time that she told me, where she's like, "Oh, my husband's going to spend the day at the farm. He'll come pick me up on his way home." I'm like, "What farm are you talking about?" And she goes, "Oh, he has a farm on the north side of Ambergris Caye." So fun fact, if you've been following our videos for some time, I used to show maps of Ambergris Caye, and there was a pink heart on the north side of Ambergris Caye. And actually somebody once commented, "What does that heart represent?" And that was actually the pinned location of her husband's farm, because I was so absolutely dumbfounded that there was actual farm with fruits and vegetables being grown. And so much so that the next time her husband went up, they delivered to me a large basket of fresh fruits and vegetables specifically from his farm. Now, fast forward 4 or 5 years later, I'm talking to the developers here of Mangrove Crossing, and they were telling me about this property that they acquired. And they sent over some pictures as well. And for some reason, when we got started in talking, I thought that they were talking about the Cayo district on the mainland. And they're like, "No, no, no, this is on Ambergris Caye." And I'm like, "My goodness, this looks like the Cayo district. It has the rich black soil, very fertile soil. There's large jungly trees." But lo and behold, it was this property here. So I am so excited about this one, just simply because of the uniqueness of it and how it can truly be that off-grid homesteading property for those who are looking to live off the land, or perhaps just not be close to people, or just to have your plan B here in paradise. So our roadmap for today, we're going to be looking at why Belize continues to be the #1 country in the Caribbean to own real estate. Number two, we're going to be looking at Mangrove Crossing more specifically and understand what opportunities are available to owners. Step number three, we're going to be looking at steps to ownership. How easy is it for you to own a property at Mangrove Crossing? And then section number 4, we're going to be covering the Q&A session. So this is when you're going to be answering your questions. You'll type it there into the Q&A section of the control panel, and we'll get those answered for you. I anticipate this is going to be about 30 to 35 minutes. But we are recording, so if you're going to have to listen afterwards, if you have to run off and go do things, don't worry, we've got you covered. We'll send you the recording afterwards. Also, if there's anything else that you would like additional information on that maybe we don't do a deep dive into this session, I have my email address there on the bottom part of the screen, info@lunarealtybelize.com. This will carry forward in all of the slides, so you can always email me directly. I get a copy of this email, and we can get those questions answered for you. So first and foremost, let's dive a little bit deeper into Belize. I know for some people on this session, Belize is a new country that you're exploring. Maybe you're not sure where in the world you want to end up, or where you want to have your plan B or your little slice of paradise, but Belize is on your radar. Now, I will tell you the top 4 reasons that people are choosing Belize over any other country in the world. Number 1 is that English is the official language. This is honestly probably the #1 reason that I'm finding people are owning property here, especially if they plan to spend some time here, because they can read contracts, they can read agreements, they can interact with locals, they can interact with the community members. Something as simple as getting your internet set up, you can do that without having to learn another language. And the fact that common law is used and practiced here is also another reason that foreigners are looking at property here, because they understand the law. So if you're from the United States, with the exception of Louisiana, then you're familiar with common law already. So this is going to be a very common or familiar place to own real estate. Number 2 is that there's 0 capital gains tax here in Belize. And this is a really big reason why a lot of our land bankers, people who pick up land now and sell it in the future, decide that Belize is where they want to do that. Number 1, it's because there's 0 capital gains tax here, 0 capital gains tax. So if you're picking up a property at Mangrove Crossing today for $47,000, you sell it for $100,000 in 5 years, you don't have any capital gains tax on that $53,000 gain from when you've sold the property. Now, in your home country, you're going to have to talk to your accountant or your lawyer about that. But here in Belize, there is 0% capital gains tax. In addition to that, property tax is really low. So I'm going to estimate that the property tax for the Mangrove Crossing parcels is going to be about $100 to $200 US per year. It doesn't matter what's built on top of it. That is just very affordable, especially compared to other countries throughout the region. Number three, and this is also another big reason why people choose Belize over neighboring countries, is because you as a foreigner, you receive title to your property. This is huge. It doesn't matter if it's on the coast. It doesn't matter if it's near the border. You receive title. Of course, you'll want to be working with a closing company to make sure the property that you're purchasing has a free and clear title. But once that is confirmed, then rest assured that you do get that hard copy title to it. And number four, why many people are choosing Belize is simply because of the increase in demand. Belize is still a fairly young country when it comes to tourism. When we look at countries like Mexico or countries like Costa Rica or even Panama that have a very mature tourism market there, we see real estate prices that are through the roof, or there are so many people going there. There's so much getting built there that there's an oversupply. Here in Belize, because it's still very young in the tourism sector, we don't necessarily have those huge waves of people coming in. However, that is starting to change as more direct flights come here from various parts of the world. As more people hear about Belize, there continues to be an increase in demand. However, because the country is so small, the supply continues to be limited. We know they're not making any more land. And so as a result, now is really the right time to get in while there's still the appreciation, and we don't have to worry about there being that oversupply like in some countries. Belize is truly on the rise. It has been remarkable to see. I've been living here in San Pedro on Ambergris Caye for the last 13 years. I'm originally from New York, and I remember the very, very first time I stepped off the plane in November of 2012 here on the island of Ambergris Caye. There was a big sign from Tropic Air that said, "Welcome home." I took a deep breath in. You can smell the sea salt coming off the plane, and the Tropic Air employee greeting you saying, "Welcome," truly saying, "Welcome home," with a big, big grin on their face. And today, 13 years later, that hasn't changed. But what has changed is the island in terms of development. It continues to grow and grow and grow. And we're continuing to see that by the increase in tourism and increase in tourism numbers and people coming to the island and continuing to return to the island. As we continue to see more direct flights coming in, there are a few that were just introduced this year. Montreal, that's a new direct flight. San Francisco came in last year. Seattle came in a few years ago. Atlanta, North Carolina, Baltimore, New York, Chicago, Toronto, and then also from Panama City, Roatan, Guatemala. There are a handful of flights coming to Belize. Obviously, this doesn't cover every part of the world. It really is just the segment of the North American market. Now, we can just imagine when there's a direct flight coming in from Britain, for example, or coming in from Europe, how much more the tourism is going to grow, how many more people are going to be coming here, because it's not necessarily easy to get to Belize from Europe. So those Europeans are probably going to Mexico or Costa Rica or a place that's a little bit easier to get to. But once we get that direct flight in, it's going to be an absolute game changer for the tourism here in the country. I have heard some rumblings about that happening at some point, but something I've learned here in Belize is that Belize time is real. And while many people may have the best of intentions of getting something done at a certain time, it's probably going to take a little bit of time before that gets implemented. So in the meantime, we can just reap the rewards of being the early adopters and coming here to Belize before all of the masses. Now, I'm going to zone in specifically more. Here's the country of Belize. I'm going to zone in specifically more on Ambergris Caye. Ambergris Caye is the largest island off of the coast of Belize mainland. However, you can see it's still pretty small compared to the rest of the country. It's only about 26 miles long, but this little island is the number one producer of tourism revenue for the entire country of Belize. And there's good reason for that. The reef, the largest living reef in the world, parallels the coast of Ambergris Caye. So you can see on this map over here, there's the dark blue and the light blue, and then you can see the different points over here that are different dive sites along the coast. There's so many more that aren't even highlighted here, but Belize and Ambergris Caye specifically started coming on the radar of divers and fishermen and snorkelers in about the 70s. And since then, it has continued to grow and grow and grow. In the 70s, it was absolutely considered an off-grid, adventurous destination. Over time, it's continued to grow, where now it's not necessarily just those adventure travelers who are coming. We have more of the mainstream travelers, people who are traveling with family, with kids, with grandparents, and it's a very, very family-friendly atmosphere. The population of the island, it varies depending what season we're in, if it's high season or low season, but generally about 35,000. And as we mentioned, this island is really known for the fishing. Fly fishing, for example, is huge. We have 3 catch and release fish here. You'll see one here on the top part of the screen, which is the permit, the diving, the snorkeling, because within 5 minutes of leaving the coast, you are there in the reef. It does not get much closer than that. We drive golf carts here. That's our primary mode of transportation. So a couple of times here, you're going to hear me mention golf carts, but that is our primary mode here. Also delicious seafood, which you can expect because we are surrounded by the waters. So we're continuing to see growth in all directions, which is something I know many of us are very excited about. On the top left over here, this was the conversation of the construction between a new bridge, a pedestrian bridge between San Mateo and Boca del Rio, which are two neighborhoods here on the island. In addition to that, on the bottom left, the big cheeses, we'll say, we're up on the north side of the island, looking at the plans for 3 new schools to get built. In addition to that, we're seeing a new road going south, pavement going south, and the Sacachispas Dome that they've been talking about, which is an enclosed area where we have a lot of events for the island. Independence Day is celebrated there, Mother's Day, everything happens at Sacachispas. And then, of course, more paving of the roads. Now, 13 years ago, it was the primary roads in town that were paved. And since then, over the last 13 years, we've seen so many areas get paved, so much infrastructure improvement, and a lot of development happening here. But this property is so specific and so different that I'm so excited to share with you how it can perhaps work for you. But like we were talking about, when many people think about Ambergris Caye and think about Belize, they think about the Caribbean Sea. Understandably so, because diving, fishing, snorkeling are some of the must-dos when you're here. It's what draws and drives a lot of people to visit Belize and San Pedro in the first place. But I will tell you, there is that other side of Ambergris Caye that many people don't know about or don't necessarily see. But understandably so, there's not necessarily tourist destinations on the north side of the island. You're not necessarily going to rent a golf cart and hope that the path that you're taking is the path that you should be taking. However, it is so beautiful compared to what you may have seen already, but it is so different, so beautiful, and I'm so excited to share with you this location. Now, when you start to get to the north side of the island, you have a lot of untouched land. It is in this raw vegetative state. Think jungles, think lush greenery, birds, flora, fauna, a very tropical environment. In this specific area where Mangrove Crossing is located, there are 2 local farms nearby. One of them I was telling you before, where our housekeeper was bringing us fruit from her husband's farm. There's a pig farm as well down the road. And in addition to that, there are a couple of off-grid cottages. There are some people who are already living up there, but we are about an hour and a half drive from the heart of the downtown area. So it does take some time to get there. However, many people who are looking at this property do see that as an advantage, as a way to get away from all the craziness, have some privacy, serenity, and perhaps live off the land if that's something that's important to you. Like we're talking about the unique geography that's up there, having that black dirt, that rich soil is something that is so unique, because if you've been to Ambergris Caye before, you probably have noticed a lot of limestone, sand, of course, lagoon in many areas. And so having that rich, fertile soil is ideal for somebody who wants to be doing some gardening or farming. In addition to that, if you've been to the Cayo district, it has a very, very similar feel to that. I know, James, you split your time between Cayo and San Pedro. And so this is a way to feel like you're in Cayo without having to go to the mainland. So you truly have the best of both worlds, with the Caribbean Sea just being about a mile. It's about a mile to get from Mangrove Crossing to the Caribbean over here. And then, like we were saying before too, it's peaceful and tucked away. So with Ambergris Caye developing at the rate that it is, if you're somebody who's just looking for something a little bit more quieter, something that's a little bit more off the beaten path, then Mangrove Crossing could be the right solution for you. So as you take a look at the aerial here, you will see that it is a very dense area, a lot of greenery, a lot of vegetation. We're looking down the island in this picture here. So if you can follow my cursor, this is the Cayo Francis Lagoon. I think some of you, if you've been following us, you've heard us talk about the Cayo Francis Lagoon. It's a very popular area for fish breeding. You have a lot of lobster and bonefish and barracudas in this area. A lot of fly fishing happens in the Cayo Francis Lagoon as well. And then this is, of course, the reef. So where you can see the white waves breaking. This is really the big reason that Ambergris Caye has become as popular as it has, or as it has over the last few decades. And then we're looking down on the right-hand side. This is down the west coastline of the island. And that's where you have that turquoise waters. Secret Beach, for example, is just down in this area, if you can follow my cursor. But you can see it's a really untouched area. Now there is road access to Mangrove Crossing. You can see actually one of the farms over here. But there are, and the little cottages, you can actually see one right over here. There's another one over here. So it's a pretty untouched area, but people are indeed enjoying it already. This is truly the hidden jungle pocket of North Ambergris Caye. So if you're looking at this opportunity, this is probably ideal for somebody who's looking to live off grid, somebody who wants to land bank, buy and hold, or perhaps you're thinking about homesteading, like that plan B. This is something we're getting a lot more of, people who are looking for that plan B. In this area, you will be able to grow your own tropical fruits and vegetables. So think pineapple, papaya, mangoes, dragon fruit, kiwi, star fruit, maracuya, or passion fruit. You can do all of that here, and it's so incredibly fresh and juicy. In addition to that, you have the flora and the fauna. So you're thinking of tropical colors, the tropical plants like hibiscus, for example, the birds of paradise, and also some really, really good birding in this area, just simply because of the landscape, which brings us to our next point, which is enjoying the wildlife. So I remember when we were up there just a couple of weeks ago, and the lady that I was with, we just stopped talking and we could actually hear the birds singing. It was just something so remarkable, because when you come back into San Pedro town, it's just the golf carts that are going back and forth, the horns from the cabs, and you just don't necessarily have that sort of serenity within town core anymore. And in addition to that, you do have the sea access. So it is only about a mile from the sea. So again, having the best of both worlds. So the Caribbean Sea is going to be on the east side, and then the lagoon on the west side. So let's take a look a little bit more at the map over here. So if you can follow my cursor right over here, this was formerly Margaritaville. They're rebranding. Rumor I heard is that it's going to be called the Ambergris Grand. So that's what we have here on our map. Could or could not be that, but that was the last that we heard. Tranquility Bay, which is absolutely a destination for people. It's about 15 miles up the coast over here. And so it's a destination. They have the crystal clear waters. They have a restaurant there. Many of us will drive up for the day, enjoy their beaches, enjoy the restaurant. You can drive up on boat. There's a lot of great snorkeling right here in front of Tranquility Bay. If you continue going up the coast on the east side, then you're ending up at Rocky Point. And Rocky Point is actually where the reef hits the land. So it's really remarkable. It's something unlike anywhere else on the island, where I would recommend doing a golf cart drive up there. If you haven't been, pack a cooler with your cold beverages and snacks and just sit there and listen to the waves crashing. It's really, really remarkable. So this area, Mangrove Crossing, it's about 10 acres in total, 55 home sites, and then 1 acre of completely untouched green space. Now, what I recommend, because this area is so lush with greenery, if you're somebody who's looking to own here, please don't come in and plan to clear cut everything. Cut down the space that you need in order to build your home, but leave the jungle as it is. That's how you're going to ensure you're getting that wildlife passing through, and you're going to be keeping the area as close to its natural state as possible. So let's take a look at phase 1 within Mangrove Crossing. Phase 1 consists of 7 lots only, 11, 12, 11. Well, I'm sure you guys can all read the numbers, 11 through 17 right there. There are 2 corner lots, 11 and 17. The dimensions you can see, they're not exactly the same on every side. So I've just broke it down for you over here on the bottom middle part of the screen. But the interior lots, those are all the same. Those are about 5,500 square feet. So the pricing you're seeing is in US dollars. This is for financing. There are cash specials available. If you are interested in hearing about what those are, just feel free to reach out to us, info@lunarealtybelize.com, and we can get those details for you. But the interior lots over here, you're looking for about $47,000, $46,900. So what we've been talking to a couple of people about, they're asking if they can purchase more than one. Yes, of course you can do that. If you're looking for a bundle, we can of course talk to you about a bundle package. But I will tell you, if you're looking for a buy and hold, buy now and sell later, I always recommend doing something that's a little bit different, because we know there are going to be 55 lots. Doing something like picking up a corner lot, right? Because those are a little bit more scarce. Picking up 2 lots, if you're able to, maybe 11 and 12. So you have a corner lot and then you have the adjacent one. That is always a huge resale advantage, is having a double lot package. Or perhaps you're just thinking about yourself and you're thinking about the long term. Maybe you're not quite ready to build now, but you'll pick up a lot for yourself. You can pick up the lot next to you, maybe for gardening or for your own farm. That is absolutely something that is recommended and encouraged to do if you have the ability to do so. So you can see, compared to island prices here, they're really quite affordable, starting just under $47,000, and there is financing. So the financing example that I'm showing you here on the screen is with 50,000 or 50% down rather, It's a 10-year term, 10% interest. The seller is willing to be flexible on the amount down, but we're going to just use this as the standard go-to is a 50% down, 10-year term, 10% interest. So if you're looking at one of those interior lots, that's 12, 13, 14, 15, or 16, amount down, you're looking at about $23,450. The loan amount is going to be for the same. And then the seller will finance that for you over 10 years with 10% interest. So your monthly payments are less than $310 per month. And I know for many people who are living in the States or Canada, this is just a few nights out of dinner or maybe catching up with some friends over drinks a couple of times a month that instead can be put towards your monthly payment here at Mangrove Crossing and something that you have as a hard, tangible asset. Now, I mentioned to you corner lots are scarce. As we can see in this grouping, there are only two, number 11 and number 17, because they are a little bit more in demand because they are scarce. You will see the price tag is a bit higher here, but with 50% down, you're looking just under 25,000 down, the loan amount just under 25,000, and that'll bring your payments, your monthly payments to $329.72. So just about $20 more than if you were doing one of the interior lots. Again, if you have the ability, I do recommend doubling up, maybe a corner lot and the adjacent lot for some better resale potential down the line as well. Let's talk about who this property is right for, because this property is not right for everybody. I will tell you that there's not a one-size-fits-all solution when you tell us you're interested in Belize. So let's go through the top 4 groups of people that this property could be right for. Number 1 is a land banker. So what a land banker is somebody who comes in, sees there's incredible potential in a property, sees, especially here on Ambergris Caye, how the growth is going in the northward direction. They're buying the land now while it's still affordable, holding on to it. We always suggest for a minimum of 3 years and then selling it. With this property specifically, I probably recommend holding on for a little bit more because there's a lot of new infrastructure talks that are being discussed within this area here on the north side. I'd say try to hold on to it for as long as possible, but minimum, I would say at least 3 years. So you buy it now while it's affordable, and then you sell it when the time is right. You make that cash from it, and then somebody else will purchase it from you down the line. Number 2 is if you're a homesteader, and we're starting to see more and more of this, is somebody who does not want to be connected to the grid, somebody who does not want to depend on the public utilities. They enjoy being in the tropics. They enjoy having the tropical landscape and especially the fertile soil where you're able to live off the land and not depend on anyone else. Number 3 is going to be the prepper or the plan B-er. Again, this is something that we're starting to see more and more coming into the market here in Belize. Is we understand that the world is very chaotic. Things can happen. This is a great way for you to at least pick up your property in another country, be able to bolt out if you ever want to do so, build your home there, live in paradise, live in peace, I'll tell you that, and not worry about all the chaos that's going on in another country. And then number 4, if this may be the category that you fit into, is a legacy builder. We see a lot of people who want to either leave assets, hard assets for their kids or grandkids, or leave something that has a real tangible value. And this is such an easy way to do so, especially because of the affordability that we see within this property compared to other properties within Ambergris Caye. So if you're thinking about your heirs, you're thinking about their financial security, you can always title it in their name. You can always put it in a company or a trust so that down the line it gets passed off to them. So this is a really great way to leave something tangible that's a hard asset to kids or grandkids down the line. So let's just recap there. Who this property is right for: a land banker, you're that investor looking at the opportunities. Number 2, you're a homesteader thinking about perhaps living off the land. Number 3, you're a prepper, plan B-er, don't like the chaos that's going on around you right now. This could be the perfect plan B solution for you. Or 4, a legacy builder. You're thinking about your kids, your grandkids, and what it is that you can leave to them affordably down the line. Now, you're not required to build at Mangrove Crossing. In fact, there's no HOA, there's no build timeline requirements, but there are some really neat properties that people are building within jungle settings such as these. So I pulled some inspiration for you if you're trying to figure out what it is that you want to be building. Of course, you don't have to build any of these if you don't want. You can just hold on to the land, but there's some pretty neat jungle landscape that you're able to play around with here. And do remember, because this property is off-grid, you will include solar and you will have your own rainwater catchment system. But that's pretty common here in Belize, especially on Ambergris Caye, but the properties north and the properties far south, they're on their own water already. So finding a contractor that's able to do this, to do something off grid, is absolutely feasible. All right, so let's just talk about the benefits quickly, and then I see some questions coming in, and I did promise we'd be about the 30 to 35 minute mark, so I want to make sure we have enough time for questions. Number one is it is accessible by golf cart. So there are many properties on the island, on Ambergris Caye, and just throughout the country of Belize that don't necessarily have road access. There may be a road indicated on a survey or a master plan, but that road may not be in. And really it's up to individuals to put the roads in order to get to their property. So if you own a property, there's no road there. If you want to access your property, you're likely going to be the one to put the road in. Right now, this property is accessible by golf cart. In fact, they've cleared out the roads. So within the entire subdivision, you do have access to whichever property you decide. Number two is the developer financing, because it's very, very difficult for foreigners to get financing in Belize, especially some as close to traditional bank financing as possible. It's just very, very difficult to do so. So the developer is willing to finance over a 10-year term. This is something that's pretty unique because seller financing is typically about 3 to 5 years max. So this is double that at 10 years. In addition to that, there's no build timeline requirements, no HOA. So you build when you're ready if you want to, or perhaps you just buy and hold and flip it when the time is right for you. And then of course, number four, it's something different. It's very unlike anything else that we see on Ambergris Caye today. I mean, I was just laughing at myself when I went into the meeting with the developers here, and I was like, oh, the one in Kyle, right? And they're like, no, this is on Ambergris Caye. And I was like, oh, right, of course it is. But we're just not used to that sort of geography, right? So it was pretty neat to see. And then seeing it in person, of course, was just even more spectacular to have the big trees around and to hear the birds. It's just something really special here. So if you are interested in learning more about Mangrove Crossing, we're going to be answering questions. Feel free to type your questions there into the Q&A section, but let's just talk about the next 3 steps that you'll take. Number one is you're going to contact our team, info@lunarealtybelize.com, info@lunarealtybelize.com. That comes to me and to my team members as well, so we'll be able to answer those questions for you, and then review the options that are best for you. We'll take a look at the site map, determine which parcel is best for you based on what you want to accomplish, and then we'll secure your parcel. We do work with a closing company, so you do have that peace of mind. All financial and all money will go into escrow of that closing company. They'll do the title check for you. They'll make sure everything is free and clear, and then they'll prepare what we call the transfer of land. The transfer of land is the one document that you have to sign, wet signature in front of a notary, but the closing company will take care of all of that for you. You do not need to physically come down to Belize to close on your property. But of course, if you want to, you're more than welcome to come down and visit. So there's the best contact info for us, info@lunarealtybelize.com, and then my phone number there as well if you'd prefer to have a quick phone call. Now, our team is generally here to help. I'm the owner broker of Luna Realty Belize. I started the company in 2022 after a 10-year stint with a real estate developer here on the island. That's what brought me to Belize in 2012, was a job opportunity with a real estate developer. The developer was based here on Ambergris Caye and actually based all throughout the region, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panama, El Salvador, Honduras, all over the place. But this was my home base. And this is really where it continues to be home. This is where my family is. This is where our dogs are. This is where our home is. And so we're more than excited to welcome you to our home. Now, of course, behind the scenes, they're not here on the screen with me today, but they're probably just writing off emails now as I'm having this conversation with you or on the phone with folks. They're just a really incredible group of team members who I've known for many, many years and are like my right hand in all of this and making sure you have all the information that you needed. But in addition to that, of course, you can ask us questions, but we do have a handful of resources for you to make sure you have everything available at your fingertip. Our biggest goal in all of this is education. And we want to make sure you understand what it means to own property in Belize and what that process looks like. So we've prepared multiple resources for you. One is a Moving to Belize guide. Another is the must-know 12 must-knows that you have to know before you buy property here in Belize. And we're happy to send those to you. You can just email us for those, info@lunarealtybelize.com. You can put moving and must-knows in the subject line, and we'd be happy to send those over to you. So with that, I'm going to pull up the Q&As here and go through questions. So Perry is saying, can the properties be purchased in an LLC, or would the LLC have to be open in Belize? Okay, this is a really great question. So you are able to purchase property here in Belize in a US LLC or a non-Belize LLC. Just note that that LLC needs to be registered to do business in Belize. And by do business in Belize, I mean owning property in Belize. So that's the business aspect of it. So you'd have to register that company to do business in Belize. And then there's an annual fee that you'll pay to keep that company in good standing in Belize. It costs about $1,000 US to get it registered in the country, to get it registered in Belize, and about $500 US to keep it in good standing every year. The alternative would be if you wanted to open a Belize corporation, you can do that as well. Then you don't necessarily have the fees that I mentioned before because it's already incorporated in Belize, but you, of course, you'd have the regular LLC or corporation fees to keep it within good standing. Jackie's saying, so the lots are basically 1/8 of an acre. I'd say about that, about 1/8 of an acre. Can a person call, reserve, but come down and then change mind? Yes, you are able to do that. We would just put a contingency in the offer to purchase that is contingent on your visit. Typically, we will hold it for about 2 to 3 weeks. So you'll need to come down within 2 to 3 weeks of completing the offer to purchase. Anything beyond that, typically we just suggest that you come down and see it first before putting an offer in, because typically developers and sellers aren't going to hold it for more than 2 to 3 weeks. Now, what is also an alternative is Zoom calls. We've done that with a bunch of our clients before, where we'll go to the property, do a Zoom face-to-face, turn the phone around so that you're able to see the property. If you want us to hold the phone while we're driving up there, we're certainly able to do that as well. Maybe have it held on to something so we have both hands on the steering wheel, of course. But yes, you are able to do that. Any idea when next lot offering will be? Phase 2, I'm guessing you're talking about. Typically, we launch the next phase once most of the parcels within that previous phase are sold. So we have 7 lots in phase 1. Phase 2 will probably be launched in the next month or two, just based on, of course, those sales. And then something you'll notice, especially with launches like this, where there are different phases, that every phase, the lots are getting more expensive. So we always like to reward the pioneers, reward the people who are looking at the opportunities first, and give them the best rate possible, the best financing possible. And then beyond that, with the next phases, I can't guarantee what those prices are going to look like or what the financing is going to look like, but I can speak to at least phase 1, and I'll go back to this over here so that you're able to see prices. So prices 46.9 and then 49.9 for the corner lots. And again, if you're looking to do cash, just reach out to us and we can go through what those cash specials would look like with you. All right, I'm seeing some more questions, a little bit more specific though about people's situation and how they want to title the property. What would be best is actually if you just reach out to us, info@lunarealtybelize.com. It's not necessarily a one size fits all, and I don't want to confuse people with your specific situation. That'd be fantastic. Thank you. Someone is asking about closing costs. Okay, great question. So closing costs in Belize, I always recommend people allocate about an additional 10%, 8% stamp tax, and then 2% for the closing company fees. So just estimate about 10% on top of the purchase price. If you're financing, you're going to be paying the stamp tax at 8% once the property is paid off in full. So for example, with this 10-year property, your 8% stamp tax is going to be paid when the property is paid off in full in 10 years. You will still have to pay the attorney fees or the closing fees upon close because they are still doing the work at that point. They are still preparing the transfer of land and they're doing all of those details. But I just always recommend estimate about 10%, especially cash transactions. That'll be due upon closing. And then when you have the financing, that's 8% stamp tax is due once the property is paid off in full. And when you're taking advantage of seller financing, the title, that physical title, sits in escrow with the closing company. So that helps to ensure that the property cannot be sold. If you want to put a lien or a charge on the property, you can certainly do so. I don't have a cost for that off the top of my head, but the closing company would be able to facilitate that for you. It would be additional fees, and then you'll have to do the discharge as well once the property is paid off in full, so they can do the transfer of the title over to you. But there are many ways to secure your purchase when you are doing financing. So I know where we went over about a little bit over our 35-minute mark. I do like to keep on time. I'd like to respect everyone's time here, but I'm seeing some more questions come in. If we did not get to your question, please reach out to us, info@lunarealtybelize.com. Our team will get those questions answered for you right away. And if you would like to do a tour, of course, let us know and we're happy to do so. We do have a couple of videos that we've published already that we'll be able to send over to you just to help you get even more of a feel of the topography and the lay of the land. Once again, everyone, thank you so much for joining us live, and I look forward to seeing you here in Paradise at some point soon. Bye-bye, everyone. Bye.